1% could be somebody who is, living a great life, has financial freedom.
In terms of mindset, I would say the ability to be resilient. Someone who gets up every time he gets knocked. What is up, guys? Welcome to Focus. My name is Luis Perez.
My name is Jacob Rodriguez.
This is episode number 18. We've been at this for a while now, guys. So we're both entrepreneurs. I have a videography business, and I also scaled a fitness page all the way up to 100,000 followers.
Yeah, and I run a Mexican restaurant chain that in the state of Connecticut that does over 8 figures a year.
And yeah, that's a little bit about us. And this is the Focus podcast, guys, where, the number one thing you need in life to do anything is focus. Without focus, you can't achieve anything. And the generation that we live nowadays, it's very hard to stay focused. We have so many distractions. We got our phones. We got all this technology. We got girls. We got guys, if you're a girl watching or whatever. We have a lot of stuff. So this is why it's the Focus podcast. With that being said, 1%. What does it take to be the 1%? Who's the 1%?
Yeah, how do you label the 1%, right?
How do we label how do we get into this 1%? What's happening? What's the 1% being thrown? What do you got to say about that, Jacob?
Yeah, I think the way you define 1% is super important. 1% could be somebody who is, living a great life, has financial freedom, has liberty to do whatever they want. I believe that's the 1%. But 1% could be somebody who actually has the liberty and free time, but maybe not the financial freedom. So, and the other people could say, it's happiness. Being happy is the 1% for some people. And so it really depends on how you define it in your life and what your goals are. But I personally believe it's having financial freedom and liberty to do whatever you want. And I believe that leads to happiness. So that's to me is the 1%. And it's very rare that people get there and get that far.
Okay, I like that you mentioned how there's different 1% mindset, all that. I'm glad that you started there because a lot of people immediately think of 1% and think of, you got to have $1 million.
A billion.
A billion, or you gotta have a shit ton of money, right? And it goes further than that. It depends what you think of a 1%. But 1% is you said it's someone with financial freedom, right? That's how you. For me, a 1% is someone that stands out of the crowd.
Yeah.
Stand out of the crowd mindset. I guess for me, it was always like mindset, not in terms of money because, I grew up poor, so I didn't really think of it like that. But yeah, financial freedom. Yeah, I guess that's a big one.
And mindset. I think like you said, it's someone who stands out, and you can stand out in so many ways. I think the way you stand out is by being different. And I think the people that have a different mentality are the ones that stand out, and those are the people who are the 1%. You don't actually believe that, per se, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg were the most popular people in school, most popular people overall. They weren't the most loved out of everyone. No, definitely not. They were definitely the black sheep, as we talked about in a prior podcast. And that's kind of how it is right now as well. It's like you kind of are a black sheep, and that's what defines you. That kind of, you have to define yourself. And so I think it comes into this circle, right? And Mexican restaurants, for example, I'm going to say it compared to my business. Mexican restaurants are known for being, authentic, a lot of food, a lot to drink, very little money, very cheap. But, we try to stand out from that. So what we do is we elevate the experience, elevate the service, elevate the food, elevate the ingredients that we use, the quality that we use, and we take it to that 1%. And 1% is not cheap, dude. If I want to use filet mignon, if I want to use USDA Prime, if I want to use dry aged, that's not going to cost me any cheaper than it's going to cost a steakhouse. So I have to live up to the 1%. And honestly, I think the best restaurants, the 1% of restaurants that survive no matter what, are the restaurants that do the most sales. So when I say that is like when the best restaurants that I see that do well forever are the ones that have an elevated service, elevated food quality, and probably a prime location as well. And I think that all defines the 1% of restaurants that survive in this industry.
So since we're getting deep into the 1% now, what makes a 1%? Because a lot of people think money, a lot of people think mindset. So let's break it down. What's 1%? Now, in terms of mindset, I would say the ability to be resilient. Resilient is a big one. Someone who does not someone who gets up every time he gets knocked.
Someone I feel like also someone who's not persuaded easily. I think that's also 1%.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
someone who's not influenced by other people's opinions, I think that is 1%.
Ooh,
Because
that's a
that is
good one.
that is a lot of people suffer from that. I feel like that's like a mental disorder kind of in a sense because so many people care about what everybody else thinks. And I feel like the 1% are people who just didn't care what anybody thought and then kept going, kept persevering, and they eventually made it to, being one of the most popular creators or artists or, authors of a book. And so those are the people that do the best.
That's funny because I guess some people call them bots because they're the people who follow like celebrities. A bunch of people follow celebrities. They know everything these celebrities are doing, every single
Ridiculous.
second, everything. Like they're living their lives.
They
which
know more about their lives than they do.
exactly, it's crazy, man. But they get really, what's it called when by them?
Influenced?
Yeah, influenced by them. They
Yeah.
get really influenced by them. Everything they do,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I mean, I think the 1% is also someone who's obsessed with what they do, and they're always obsessed to be a kind of a perfectionist in some sort, and they always strive to be the greatest. I think that's what kind of makes somebody, the 1%. They always say the king of the jungle is the lion, and it's not because it's the biggest, it's not because it's the fastest, but it's because of the mentality it has. And I believe that's true also in this cold world that we live in, is that you have to be the strongest. I mean, you're not going to be the biggest, you might not be the fastest, but you have to be the strongest mentality wise, and you have to believe that you're better than everybody else in some way, and that if you're not, you'll eventually get there, and then you'll do your job the best you can.
You know what I realized over the years? It's easy to fake that. And a lot of people fake There's a lot of talkers nowadays. Everyone's a talker. But when it comes time for action, that's who you know who's real. This is why I always mention this. I've mentioned this in the past. I hate talking.
You talk the talk, but don't walk the walk, right? That's what they
Bro,
say.
Like, shut up. You'll recognize a 1%.
100%.
He doesn't have to talk for you to be like, oh, he's a 1%. If you're a 1%, you don't have to say it.
Yeah, I
You'll
mean, I
show
think
it.
1% is already, you can feel the presence of the 1%.
That aura is different.
The aura is
Feel
different. There is a different type of aura, and this is not to be cringe. This is not to be funny, but there is aura with the 1%. And I think, like, I've been in a room, and you check out the whole crowd, and you can just tell who the guy is, who
Yeah.
the main man is, and it's just they didn't tell you anything. You don't even know their name, but you know who's the boss. And I think that's just funny to tell because like that is the 1% right there. The 1% isn't someone who flaunts everything they have. Maybe there are people that do flaunt what they have, but the 1% is not someone who flaunts everything they have. Typically, there's someone that's very humble, that works hard, that knows what it's like from being from the bottom all the way to get to the top. And I think that's what some characteristics that the 1% has. But they always have a specific aura, man. That energy is just different. That energy is just different.
You don't need money. You just need aura. How do you get aura? How do you get that? How do you achieve aura? The
You're
aura.
born with it, man. Since birth.
No, but you could
Up your aura.
yeah, you could up your aura. You could
You
do
get
something
fit.
to elevate. Yeah, fit, going to the gym. I guess that's like the most common one.
I mean, honestly, for myself, I'm not gonna say I have aura or anything like that, but I am someone who per se I was very insecure about myself when I was younger. So I was, unfit. I wasn't a good public speaker. I was always shy to speak to anybody. I was always nervous. I was always introverted. And those are a million excuses I always gave myself. But then when I got older, I kind of realized, like, dude, I'm never gonna grow anywhere. I'm never gonna go anywhere if I keep having this mentality. So I kind of just switched the switch in my mind, and I'm like, you know what? I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to practice, and eventually I'm gonna be, the top guy. And right now I am a top guy, but I'm not even close to where I want to be. And I know that's the mentality I need to have, and always be humble and grateful for everything I have. And I very am, but it's always like a ladder,
Yeah. Once you get to a destination, it's gonna open up more doors, and you're gonna always want to get more.
100%. Do you want to talk about the 1% maybe in influencers that you've seen? What are the people that do the best? What are the people that really say have a niche and grow from that niche? People that started. I think something that's super interesting. I don't know if you saw, but the yesterday got announced that McGregor and Logan Paul are gonna fight in India.
Is that real?
That's real, dude. They're getting paid a $250 million both each. And so I think
thought it was fake.
They're very hated, Logan Paul and Jake Paul, but I am very inspired by them because, dude, they had crazy beginnings to where they are now. I mean, obviously they didn't start out poor, or they didn't have I don't even know their life, but still, I remember when they started in LA, and then started growing from there and stuff like that, and to where they are now, where they're fighting McGregor, where Jake Paul is fighting UFC fighters, and doing reality TV shows. Oh, Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson. I would have never thought that 10 years ago when I was first started watching them until now. So it's like now they kind of created like their own world in a sense, and they are the kings of social media. I honestly, whether you like them or not, they are the kings of social media.
Yeah, no, 100%, bro. I've actually been watching them since middle school, more than a decade, bro. And
Literally, me.
Dude, they know how to control the audience. They've been doing this for so long. The fact that people hate them, they love that.
Yeah, they love that.
And bro, they
makes them more money, man.
Dude, they keep adding to the fire because they know that people, or they get mad. I'm gonna find somebody else that's gonna box. They're gonna want to wish I lose. Gonna cause more people to
watch the fight.
Exactly, and they get more money. And it's a loop. They know how to get people riled up.
Yeah, they always say any publicity is positive publicity. Even if it's negative, it's positive publicity. And I think that's so true for their story specifically. Is like, they're known for being, people are like, they're spoiled. Oh, they did this. Oh, they did that. But the more their name comes out, more people hear about them, more people watch their content. Whether you like them or not, you've heard about them. And they really have made this world their own world. And now they, travel everywhere they go. They fly private. They have these huge mansions. And, they live every boy's dream, right? Every boy's dream lifestyle. Yeah. And I think they really deserve it because they've been working hard for years, like you said, over a decade. Yeah. And honestly, they deserve everything they have.
Bro, since Vine, have you ever downloaded
Dude, I know. I remember watching Logan Paul on Vine and Jake Paul on Vine, dude. That was and when they would get back with like King Batch, they would collab with King Batch and stuff like that. It was a long time ago, man.
Bro, the first thing he ever did was, that I started seeing go viral was the split. So Logan was doing the splits everywhere. Walmart, everywhere doing the splits.
He got super famous off of that. And I think those people are the 1% of social media. And, you could follow it with a bunch of other people like Mr. Beast. Yesterday I went to a game. I went to a Giants game, and a Giants football game. And I was a Giants versus the Colts. It was a great game. It was in New Jersey. And then after that, right next to the stadium, I didn't know there was the new American Dream Mall. And so I stopped by. Dude, that mall is insane. That mall is huge.
It has everything.
Huge. And Mr. Beast has a restaurant inside there.
Really?
I didn't even know. Mr. Beast has a restaurant.
Don't tell me he has the burger restaurant.
Yeah, the burger place, bro.
I thought that was all digital.
I thought that was all fake. And then he literally has a restaurant in there, and that place was packed.
What?
And without exaggerating, dude, that mall was packed. Every store in the mall was closed. The food court was open, and like the ice cream places were open. But every other store, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Rolex, all these other, Alexander, Ferrari, all these stores were closed. But the mall had to have at least 15, 20,000 people inside of it. Dude, wow. It was so many people that I felt oily when I got out of there because you could feel the heat. It wasn't even hot out yesterday, but it felt like I felt the heat from everybody. That's how fucking packed it was. And there's like 4 floors. Every floor was packed. Packed. And, I can't believe, Mr. Beast, this guy started off as a YouTuber that's been doing this for, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. I don't know how long he's been doing it for. Now has like his own restaurant inside, his own burger joint. And I can already imagine the sales he does there. He probably does $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in sales every single day over there and kills it. And once again, it's somebody who really persevered, worked hard. And, people say, oh, what does a YouTuber know about food? Look, he has his own food spot. He killed Ghost Kitchens as well. He killed it. My Uber Eats, So he would rent out people's kitchens and they would make their food and then send it out to other restaurants. And he killed that. And honestly, the people who have the most creativity are the people that, persevere the most and do the best in life. And they don't limit themselves to anything. Who would have thought that, he would recreate, what's that show that he recreated?
Squid Games.
Squid Games.
Yeah.
He recreated that.
Got
and
more views than the
got
actual.
hundreds of millions of views. And he does it in every single language, Spanish, English, Portuguese, whatever. He does it in every single language. And he kills it. And honestly, I can already imagine the money he floods into there, but it's just like his creativity is limitless. He knows that anything he puts his mind to, he'll do it, and he's proven it.
You know what I love about Mr. Beast is that he's super humble, bro. Dude, you know how much money he has? He doesn't show anything. The only money you ever see him like flaunt would be like during his shows.
Yeah.
He spends a lot of his money in his YouTube. But he doesn't. I never seen him like driving a Lamborghini or has like a mansion or anything like that. He's very private, very humble. He doesn't flash anything. He does his thing and he continues.
I mean, the thing is also, I think the 1% also goes through a lot of negative publicity when they flaunt their things. So it's like, say Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos gets a lot of hate right now because he stepped down as CEO of Amazon, but he's still like the biggest stockholder. So the thing is that he was on his like 270 foot yacht, and people are like, oh, we're protesting so you guys could pay us more than the minimum wage or more than they wanted a raise or something like that. Yeah, he's on his 250 foot yacht, and so I think you get a lot of negative publicity with flaunting your things, and that's why I think a lot of people don't flaunt their things. Like Elon Musk, I think there's like an article saying that Elon Musk still lives in this house that cost him $70,000. That's bullshit. He lives in Beverly Hills, bro. He lives in this massive mansion with a bunch of security. But he posts things like that so that he can think about him as a humble person, someone that doesn't flaunt it.
Yeah.
Even though he could buy whatever he wants. He could buy a whole ass city if he wanted to. And he doesn't do it.
I don't know. I feel like if you have $1 billion in the bank and you're driving a Lamborghini, I wouldn't really call that like you're not being humble.
No, I mean, I think you
got
gotta
money,
do what
bro.
makes you happy.
You
I
got
think
money,
honestly,
bro.
honestly, I don't think the billionaires are too worried about whether they're flaunting things or if they're not flaunting things. I think it really does matter when you're still in the head position of a company, because say your stock goes down and you need more funding. You can't be flaunting everything. You're flying on your private jet. You just bought a new yacht.
Also, you agree with the people with the
I agree with them 100% because you have to put on this image that it's like, okay, I'm not, even though I had lived this super luxurious lifestyle, the top 1% only lives, or the top 0.01% lives, I'm not going to be making that public so I could get more funding and so I could support more of my business. But when you're retired and you have all these billions of dollars, do whatever you want.
But Jeff Bezos, didn't he create Amazon?
Yeah, he created Amazon, but he stepped down as CEO. So now he's just a shareholder or the president or something like that.
Well,
but he
bro.
doesn't have a major role inside the company anymore.
Yeah, bro, my stepdad, he says this all the time. It's hilarious. I'm gonna say it in Spanish because I don't. He says, "Respeto lo ranco."
Yeah, respect the ranks.
Respect the ranks. And Jeff Bezos, bro, he created $1 billion industry. I feel like at this point, it doesn't matter what he does. Who cares?
Not billion, trillion.
Bro,
Trillion.
you think? No, I wouldn't be mad if he's on a yacht like you, bro. What? I don't care if he stepped down from CEO. He created $1 trillion company.
Yeah. And I'm going to say he deserves it. I mean, that Amazon has changed the world completely.
Dude, yeah.
And he elevated it, even though people see it as a negative thing because he's taking a lot of, local stores out of business and stuff like that. But he just honestly created a monopoly. And I don't even think 1% could create that. I think it's 0.0001% of people could actually do that. And, Elon Musk is someone as well, Bill Gates and Microsoft. I think these are people that really just influence the world and changes the whole world in so many positive ways. Positive and negative, depending on how you see it. But I think those people really deserve being in the top 1%. Mm-hmm. And do you think it came easy? It did not come easy. They had to be focused for years and years. So many sacrifices. I could already imagine they had to miss out on millions of hanging out with friends, parties, or whatever they had to do just to focus on their business. And honestly, that's something that our generation lacks. Our generation lacks discipline. Our generation lacks, being focused in life. I think our generation just lives on social media, lives on, comparing themselves to reality stars and celebrities when they should really be focused on actually doing the work. And that's something that nearly nobody does.
This is what most people go through because I've heard it before. It's boring.
Oh, 100%.
This is the thing. You have to find a way to enjoy that part of your life because I know it's boring. It's gonna be boring. It's boring to get to the top, but find a way to enjoy it. There has to be some way for you to find a way to enjoy it. That's
Honestly, the only thing you have to enjoy is enjoy the process.
enjoy the work.
Enjoy
Yeah.
the work. Enjoy the
work.
process. Honestly, don't fall into the big group of people that just say, be satisfied with life. Never be satisfied. Never be satisfied with where you're at. Always be grateful. Always be humble, but never be satisfied. Always know you could put yourself harder. Always know that you could do a better job. And I think that's what people, that's what the best people do. You think, what's his name? Chris Bumstead thought he was ever going to win an Olympia. He probably did when he was younger, and when he first started working out, he definitely probably didn't. But then when he started getting good and started competing and stuff like that, he definitely had the mentality of I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there. And you think he quit after the first time he lost? He didn't quit. Neither did Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman's an 8-time Olympian, but you think he won the first times? He definitely didn't win the first times. And yet he kept persevering. He pushed himself harder. He did everything that nobody else was willing to do, and that's what made him an 8-time champion. And so I think that has to do with everybody. That has to do with athletes. That has to do with business people. That has to do with doctors. Any profession, it's the same thing. The people that work the hardest and people that always reach and take a step more than everybody else are the people that are the top 1%. And you have to create that mentality for yourself is of I need to be the top 1%. I need to do what everybody else doesn't want to do.
And you know what? The biggest trait that the majority or all of the 1% have is that they always knew they were going to make it. They always knew they were the 1%. From the bottom of it, because I've heard Logan Paul say this. I've heard Chris Bumpson say this. I knew I was going to get there. No matter, I don't know how I was going to do it.
Full confidence, yeah.
I don't know how I was going to do it, but I know I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And it's sticking to that and knowing and having hope and continue moving forward and just keep working. Boom. Everybody has that. Everybody at that 1%, they always knew, they were always confident. Boom, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
They always did.
You have to have confidence in yourself. Even if you don't have confidence in yourself, create that confidence. And, kind of fake that confidence in yourself as well. I've always been somebody that I knew in the bottom of my heart that I wanted to be someone in life. And I knew I didn't want to be a bum. I knew I didn't want to be a drug head and alcoholic. I knew I wanted to be someone in life. And I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to fight. I didn't know where to start. But I always had that feeling and that confidence that I was going to be somebody. And right now, like I said before, I'm nowhere close to where I want to be. But I have full confidence in myself, and I have faith in myself that with the help of God, I will be somebody one day. And, I think that mentality is something that you need to have. And I think that mentality is what the 1% has. And, I'm very humble for where I started. I'm very humble for where everything I've been granted in life. And I think you need to have that if you really want to grow and persevere in life.
Do. Yeah.
Have that consistency. Work hard. Yeah, I remember I went to a physical one day. I'm never gonna forget about this. I went to a physical. I had a physician, and my physician was like, "Oh, you look super tired." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been working quite a lot." She's like, "Oh yeah, how many hours you work?" And like 30, 40. I'm like, "No, I just had a 70-hour work week." 70 hours? What?
When was this? How old were you?
I was probably 19.
Okay.
19, I think. She's like, so that's not healthy. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you get used to it after a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, that's something that was kind of, anybody who would work 70 hours is like, oh, people look at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you doing working that much? No, you can't. That's not healthy for you. Blah, 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 blah. They'll make a million excuses for you not to work those 70 hours. But that's why these people don't get those luxuries in life of, having that financial freedom, being able to buy their mom a house, which I want to do one day. And it's because they're not willing to put the work in. And if you're really not willing to put the work in, don't even start. because that's not even meant for you. But
They
if you want to get to that top 1%, you know what you got to do. Just do it.
you have to be insane. So like she basically said, you're gonna die. You're overworking yourself 70 hours. That's when people start to say stuff like that to you, that's when you know you're on the right track. When they say you're crazy, what's wrong with you, you're mentally ill, that's when you know you're in the right track, because the
Yeah.
majority of the people are following are headed this route where it seems normal to them, and then to get to the 1%, that route to them seems insane, crazy. That if you ever took that route, you'll lose a lot of friends. That's the best way to lose friends, taking
Dude,
that route.
you know what's funny? There's a funny thing that something happened inside the restaurant before. So, I'm 21 years old. I'm very young. But I have staff that's older than me and also younger than me. And a lot of people around my age. And I remember someone told me, it's like, oh, we were talking about you last night. I'm like, what? What are you guys talking about me? She's like, yeah. Everybody's like, oh my God, it must be horrible to live Jacob's life. All this kid does is work. He doesn't do it. He doesn't get to enjoy, New Year's, Christmas. He doesn't get to enjoy all these holidays. But one thing that everybody said at the end, everybody agreed on, that he's gonna be a millionaire before anybody else is a millionaire.
Damn.
And that just put a smile on my face, because people see what I do and they're like, I could never do that. I would not, or not that they can't do that, but they're not willing to do it. And I would never sacrifice that much time to do what he's doing. But they know that with all sacrifice comes eventually the treasure.
Bro,
And
that's crazy to me.
that was a great
Like,
feeling for me to hear that. It was a great feeling
Yeah.
for me to hear that. It was a great feeling because I know everybody looks at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
With everything that I do and the decisions I make, but they know that it's gonna work out at the end, and I have that type of mentality.
Bro, and most people think like that. They see somebody working hard, they're like, dude, I would hate to have their life. Look, he's not even enjoying it or anything. But he's gonna be a millionaire. So it's crazy to me to think that they're not willing. They know hard work equals great success. So why wouldn't they, knowing that information, sacrifice part of their life to achieve the greatest things?
Yeah.
That's-
And there's one thing I heard this from an entrepreneur the other day on TikTok. he said on TikTok, he's like, you know what? In your 20s, that's when you that's when you grind in life. Your 30s, your 40s, that's when you have that work-life balance. But the 20s is when you get that head start above
Yeah.
everybody else. And honestly, I think that's so true. Even me, I started when I was younger. I started working since I was 10 years old, but I didn't start working full time like I am now until I was 16, 17 years old. And people are like, oh, those are the best years of my life. I get to enjoy this, I get to enjoy that. But it's always been molded into my head that I want to be somebody. And like Louis said, everybody knows the steps they need to take to get somewhere, but no one's willing to do it. No one's willing to do it. And when it starts getting hard, that's when everybody quits. And you know what? The top 1%, they never quit. When it might seem impossible, they never quit. I've heard so many stories of people almost leading to bankruptcy, yet they know exactly what they need to do to get out of bankruptcy. And they persevere because they know the steps they need to take to get out of it.
They never quit because, like the people here that told you you're going to be a millionaire because you're working so hard,
Yeah.
they just had that thought and it disappeared.
Yeah.
A 1%, that thought never disappears. They're consistently motivated because they know every single one of their hard work, they're going to be a millionaire. I say it every day. I'm going to be a millionaire. All this work that I'm doing, I constantly remind myself where I'm going to be at, what's happening. And I guess people forget the things that you can achieve with hard work.
I don't think people forget. I just don't think they decide not to acknowledge it.
They don't believe in them.
They don't believe it. They don't believe
Yeah.
in themselves. They don't believe they're capable of it. And I think that's why we talked about, building your self-confidence. Your self-confidence is super key. Everybody's life is, hard at some points, easy at some points. Everybody can put out a million excuses to why they can't be a millionaire, why they can't be successful in life. But, at the end of the day, You have just as many 24 hours as I do. You live just as many hours as I do. You might be older than me, but you have just as many hours as I do. Why don't you put in the work to get to where I am? Why don't I put in the work to get where a big CEO is at? And so I think you have to come to that realization of like, stop making excuses, because the top 1% never makes excuses.
Don't waste your time. A lot of people are time wasters, especially with TikTok. People spend so many hours on TikTok, and there's so many things that you can get done that will get you a little bit closer to that goal, whatever the goal is. But time is the only thing that you can never get back.
Yeah. I think they always say, you're here today, but tomorrow's never promised. And, I'd rather die knowing that I was going towards my goals and reaching my goals than never trying. And so I think that might sound corny as fuck, but still, I think it's very true. Like my life meaning is to be somebody in life, to do something well, to help out the community. And, I'm going step by step doing that. And so I know that eventually it's going to pay off and eventually I'm going to reach my goal.
That's actually one of my biggest fears right there. Sometimes I think like, oh, what happens if nothing happens? And it just forces you to work harder, to be honest. It just makes you want to work harder. But
Because you have that mentality. But if it was somebody else, they would just acknowledge.
Yeah.
They just accept it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that was a great point. I think that was a great podcast.
Yeah. Well, guys, at 1%, the mentality. You got to get your mentality on point. Start doubting yourself. Know your worth. Find something that you love.
Yeah.
That will make the journey so much easier. For me, it was videography. That's why I'm able to do it without even considering it work, even though it is work. But find something you love. Change your mindset. Hang around with positive people. We have a podcast dedicated to networking. Your circle is super important. That will,
entrepreneurship.
yeah, bro. Your network is literally
Your net worth.
Your net worth. There we go.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching. If you have watched this far, stay focused. You gotta stay
You
focused.
guys.
And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Number 19.
Number 19.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, you guys.
Oh, Happy New Year's. This is the last podcast of the year. We're not getting there. Peace.
Peace, you guys.